Now, I used to think procrastination was a character flaw, like some people were just disciplined and I wasn't. They could sit down and do the work, and I'd sit down and find 17 other things to do instead. Check email, organize my desk, research the perfect way to start, anything but the actual task. I thought that's just who I was, a procrastinator. That's my personality. But I was wrong. And the moment I figured out why, everything changed. Because here's what nobody tells you. When you procrastinate, your brain isn't being lazy, it's being protective. And once you understand what it's protecting you from, you can finally stop fighting yourself. Let me show you what's actually happening. Think about the last time you procrastinated on something important. Maybe it was a project for work. Maybe it was having a difficult conversation. Maybe it was just responding to an email that required some thought. And you felt it, right? That weird resistance, that feeling of I'll do it later, even though you knew you should do it now. That urge to scroll your phone instead, to clean something, to do literally anything else. Now, here's the question most people never ask. What actually happened in that moment? You thought about the task, your brain processed what it would require. That's it. That's the objective reality. Everything else, the resistance, the anxiety, the need to avoid it, that came from one specific thing, your brain predicting discomfort. See, most people think procrastination is about being lazy or lacking willpower, but it's not. It's about emotional regulation. Your brain has one job above all others: keep you safe. And to your brain, safe doesn't mean productive, it means comfortable. It means avoiding negative feelings. So when you think about doing something difficult, your brain runs a prediction. This is going to be uncomfortable. This might feel bad. This might not go well. And then it does something brilliant. It protects you from that predicted discomfort by making you want to do something else instead. That's not a bug, that's a feature. Your brain is working exactly as designed. The problem is it's designed for avoiding immediate physical threats, not for building a meaningful life. Here's how it actually works, and this changed everything for me once I saw it clearly. Something needs to be done. That's the task. Your brain predicts how it will feel to do it. That's the forecast. Based on that forecast, you either move towards it or avoid it. That's the response. Most people skip straight from task to avoidance and think they have no willpower. But you do. You have complete control over what happens between the forecast and the response. Let me give you a concrete example. Two people need to write a report. Person A thinks, this is going to take forever. I don't even know where to start. I'm probably going to mess it up. I'll feel so stressed the whole time. Person B thinks, this might be uncomfortable for the first few minutes, but once I start, I'll get into a rhythm. I've done this before. Same task, two completely different forecasts. Person A avoids it for 3 days, feels guilty the whole time, finally does it in a panic the night before. The actual task takes 2 hours, but the emotional cost was 3 days of anxiety. Person B feels the initial resistance, acknowledges it, and starts anyway. Same 2 hours of work, 0 days of emotional suffering. So who controlled whether they procrastinated? The task or them? This is the thing that changes everything once you see it. You think you're avoiding the task, but you're actually avoiding your brain's prediction about the task. And most of the time, the prediction is wrong. Your brain is terrible at predicting how you'll actually feel when doing something. There's research on this from Harvard psychologist Daniel Gilbert. He calls it affective forecasting, how we predict our future emotional states. And we're consistently wrong. We think things will be more painful than they are. We think tasks will take longer than they do. We think the discomfort will be unbearable when it's usually just mild. But here's the paradox. The avoidance feels worse than the task. Think about it. When you procrastinate on something, how does it feel? There's this low-grade anxiety that follows you around. You can't fully relax because part of your brain knows you should be doing the thing. You enjoy your distraction less because it's coded in guilt. So you're not actually avoiding discomfort, you're just choosing a different, longer-lasting discomfort. I'll give you a personal example. I used to put off difficult emails for days. I'd see it in my inbox, feel that little clench in my stomach, and think, I'll deal with that later when I have more energy. Then I'd spend the next 3 days with that email living rent-free in my head. I'd think about it in the shower. I'd think about it before bed. I'd think about it while trying to focus on other things.
Finally, I'd force myself to write it. And you know how long it took? 7 minutes. 7 minutes of actual work. 3 days of mental torture. And this is what I realized. I wasn't avoiding 7 minutes of discomfort. I was creating 3 days of it. The task itself was never the problem. My brain's prediction about the task was the problem. Once I saw that, really saw it, everything shifted. Now, here's where it gets deeper, and this is important if you want to actually stop procrastinating instead of just managing it. Your brain doesn't just predict discomfort randomly. It predicts it for a reason. And that reason is usually protecting something. What's it protecting? Most of the time, your self-image. See, when you procrastinate on something important, it's often because there's a risk involved. Not a physical risk, an identity risk. If you try and you fail, what does that mean about you? If you do your best and it's not good enough, what does that say? If you put yourself out there and get rejected, who does that make you? These are the questions your brain is trying to protect you from answering. Let me show you how this works. You need to apply for a promotion, but you don't. You procrastinate. Why? Because if you apply and don't get it, you might have to face the possibility that you're not as competent as you thought you were. And that's scary. So your brain says, don't apply, stay safe, we don't need to find out. You need to start that creative project, but you don't. You procrastinate. Why? Because if you create something and it's not good, you might have to face the possibility that you're not as talented as you hoped. And that's terrifying. So your brain says, don't start. As long as you don't try, you can still be potentially great. This is why perfectionism and procrastination are best friends. They both serve the same function, protecting your ego from evidence that might contradict your preferred story about yourself. But here's the thing nobody tells you. That protection is a prison. Because as long as you're protecting your self-image from being challenged, you can't grow, you can't learn, you can't become the person you want to be. You stay stuck, safe, but stuck. So how do you actually stop? Not with willpower, not with motivation. Those run out. You stop by changing what your brain is predicting. And you do that by proving to your brain that the discomfort is manageable. Here's the method that works, and it's simpler than you think. The 2-minute truth test. Next time you feel resistance to doing something, make a deal with yourself. Do it for just 2 minutes, not until it's done, not until it's perfect, just 2 minutes. Set a timer, start the task. When the timer goes off, you can stop if you want. No guilt, no judgment. You did what you said you'd do. Here's what happens. About 80% of the time, you keep going. Not because you forced yourself, but because starting was the hard part. Your brain was predicting the whole task would feel bad, but once you're in it, you realize it's not that bad. Sometimes it's even engaging. And the 20% of the time you stop after 2 minutes, that's still a win, because you proved to your brain that you can handle 2 minutes. Next time, it'll predict slightly less discomfort. Over time, you're retraining your prediction system. This is based on research from BJ Fogg at Stanford. He calls it the tiny habits method. The idea is your brain learns from experience, not from intention. Every time you start something and survive the discomfort, your brain updates its forecast. Oh, that wasn't so bad. Maybe next time won't be either. And slowly the resistance decreases, not because you got more disciplined, because your brain got better data. I've used this for everything: writing, difficult conversations, exercise, tasks I'd been avoiding for months. 2 minutes, that's all. And 80% of the time, I finished the whole thing because the starting was what I was actually avoiding. But here's the deeper work, and this is what makes the change permanent. You have to separate your worth from your output. As long as you believe that failing at a task means something about who you are as a person, your brain will keep protecting you from tasks that might lead to failure. But you are not your results. You're not your productivity. You're not your achievements or your mistakes. You're the person who's trying, who's learning, who's willing to be uncomfortable in service of growth. Once you really get this, once you internalize it, procrastination loses most of its power. Because you're not avoiding the task anymore. You're not avoiding failure. You're not avoiding discomfort. You're just doing the next thing. Sometimes it goes well, sometimes it doesn't. Either way, you're okay. This isn't about becoming some productivity machine. This is about freeing yourself from the constant mental weight of things you're not doing. Because here's what changed for me when I stopped procrastinating. I didn't suddenly start finishing everything. I didn't become perfect. But I stopped carrying around that low-grade anxiety everywhere I went. I stopped feeling guilty for relaxing because I actually finished things when I said I would. I stopped lying in bed at night running through everything I should have done that day. I got my mental energy back, not because I was doing more, because I wasn't fighting myself anymore. So here's what I want you to remember. Procrastination isn't about being lazy. It's about your brain trying to protect you from predicted discomfort that usually never comes. You're not broken. You're not weak. Your brain is working exactly as designed. It's just designed for a different kind of life than the one you're trying to build. The solution isn't to fight harder. It's to work with your brain, not against it.
Start small. 2 minutes. Prove to your brain that the discomfort is manageable. Do that enough times, and the resistance fades. And remember, you are not your productivity. You're the person underneath it all. The person who's learning. The person who's trying. That person is already enough. Now stop procrastinating on whatever you know you need to do. Not because you have to, because you can. 2 minutes. Starting now. Simple systems, better brain, better life.